Have you ever found yourself bending over backward just to keep someone in your life? You give them your heart, your time, your energy. You even mold yourself into someone you think they'll want, all in the hope that your efforts will finally make them stay. You think, if I'm kind enough, loving enough, patient enough, maybe this time they'll choose me. But despite it all, they still walk away. And in the silence they leave behind, you're left haunted by a single question. Am I still not good enough? From childhood, we're subtly taught a dangerous idea, that love is the missing piece to make us whole, that unless someone else chooses us, affirms us, sees our value, we remain incomplete. You learn to compromise parts of yourself to fit into another person's puzzle, hoping that this sacrifice will finally make you lovable. But what if that's the very reason you keep getting hurt? Carl Jung offers us a different lens, one far more liberating, yet difficult to confront. He says that if you don't recognize your own worth, you will unconsciously attract relationships that reflect your inner lack. You'll repeat the same cycles, chasing validation, seeking love from others as a replacement for the love you've never truly given yourself. You keep begging for a kind of affection that no one else can sustainably offer you, because it's the kind that must first come from within. Real self-love isn't just saying you deserve better. It's setting firm boundaries. It's learning to walk away from what wounds you, even when it's familiar. It's becoming comfortable with solitude not because you enjoy being alone, but because you're no longer willing to lose yourself just to feel accepted. When that shift happens, when you start trying to fill your emptiness through others, you'll start attracting different kinds of people, the kind who see your worth because you've finally seen it in yourself. In this video, we'll explore why loving yourself deeply and authentically changes not only the love you give, but also the love you receive. Stay with us until the end. Because maybe, just maybe, the love you've spent your life chasing isn't something to be found in someone else's arms, but something already waiting inside you, quietly asking to be awakened. Let's begin. Number 1. Love born from need is not love. What if the thing you've been calling love is actually a way to soothe your wounds? What if, instead of looking for genuine connection, you've been unknowingly searching for a painkiller to silence the ache of old heartbreaks? You say you want a safe, lasting, and nurturing relationship, but think back. How many times have you ended up with someone who made you feel anxious, small, or emotionally dependent? How many times have you been the one who gives more, feels more, hopes more, only to end up feeling empty again? Have you ever wondered, why do I always attract the same type of people? Why am I always the one who ends up hurt? And how many times have you promised yourself, after yet another heartbreak, that next time will be different, only to fall into the same painful cycle? That's not fate, it's not bad luck, it's an unhealed wound repeating itself until you finally choose to face it. Carl Jung once said, "You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are." In the quiet corners of your subconscious, where old fears, forgotten traumas, and limiting beliefs lie hidden, there's a powerful force shaping your choices. These invisible strings pull you toward the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. Take, for instance, the story of a woman who always ends up with emotionally unavailable men. Each time she tells herself that next time she'll choose someone more open, more present, but somehow the pattern repeats. Different names, different faces, same coldness. Why? Because deep down she hasn't confronted the belief buried in her. I am not worthy of being fully loved. I must work for love. I must prove my. And so she is unknowingly drawn to people who activate that belief again and again, where love is not freely given but something she must earn. This is not love. It's a cycle of emotional dependence dressed up as romance. You think you're in love, but what you're actually doing is reenacting an old, unresolved story. With new characters, yes, but the same script. You're not experiencing real love. You're trapped in emotional bargaining. If I give more, maybe I'll finally be enough. But love that stems from emptiness is not love. It's a transaction. a desperate attempt to fill the void, to silence the fear of being alone, to validate your worth through someone else's presence. And that kind of love, love born from lack, cannot survive. It cannot grow. Because it doesn't come from freedom. It comes from need. And everything born from need eventually breeds some form of dependency and pain. So be honest with yourself. When you fall in love, do you feel yourself changing? Do you become more sensitive, more fragile, more anxious? When they don't reply the way you hoped, that's because you're not truly loving them. You're clinging to the illusion that they can fix something inside you, that by loving you enough they will somehow patch up your broken parts. But that's where the suffering quietly begins. Have you ever wondered why love sometimes feels so heavy, so desperate? It's not because of what the other person is doing. It's because you're assigning them a role they were never meant to play. You're hoping they will rescue you from yourself. If you recognize that you've fallen into this pattern, seeking healing through someone else's affection, take a moment to reflect. Perhaps even leave a comment to say, yes, this is me, if what I'm sharing is striking a chord. Carl Jung called this identification with the wound, a concept where you haven't yet separated your true self from the version of you that was hurt. The pain becomes part of your identity, and you wear it like a second skin. Rather than sitting with the wound and healing it at the root, you hand it off to another, hoping they will love it away. You look for someone strong enough, attentive enough, loving enough to silence your inner doubts. But no one can carry that burden for you, not truly. And because of that, disappointment becomes inevitable. You get hurt again, you begin to demand more than they can offer. You fall into the same cycles thinking, why does this always happen to me? Love that grows from unmet need is like building a fragile home on shifting sand. At first, it might feel solid. It might even look beautiful. But one emotional wave, one moment of insecurity or neglect, is enough to make everything come crashing down. That's because the love isn't anchored within you. It's entirely dependent on someone else's presence, their words, their behavior. And when they withdraw, whether emotionally or physically, you feel like the ground disappears beneath your feet. In doing so, you unknowingly hand them the keys to your emotional state. If they leave, you shatter. If they stay, you cling. That's not love, it's emotional addiction. It might feel intense, even romantic in the moment, but it's actually a dangerous illusion, wearing the mask of passion. And this illusion won't go away until you're willing to face it, to look it in the eye and say, this isn't love. This is me begging someone to fix what I'm afraid to face alone. Until you're brave enough to recognize this, you'll keep running in circles, hoping that someone, anyone, will finally love you the right way. But the love you long for is something you must first learn to give yourself. Picture this, a man freshly out of a relationship, still reeling from the heartbreak. Instead of slowing down and tending to his wounds, he dives headfirst into dating apps, hoping that a new connection will erase the sting of the past. He jumps from conversation to conversation, chasing the temporary high of attention. What he doesn't realize is that he's not truly seeking love, he's running from pain. And in that frantic search, he only finds others who are also running, from their own fears, their own pasts. Two people connecting, not from peace or wholeness, but from urgency and emptiness. And so, inevitably, he gets hurt again. The pattern repeats. He walks away, heart heavier than before, believing, once more, that love always ends in suffering. But he overlooks the most critical truth. The energy he brings into the world shapes the kind of love he receives. If he is filled with anxiety, unhealed fear, and a desperate longing for validation, he will attract people who mirror those exact emotions. The chaos within him calls out, and chaos answers. To change the love you attract, you can't start by changing your partners. You have to start by changing yourself. You must turn inward. Shine a light on that old fear. Instead of numbing it with attention, affection, or distraction, ask the harder questions. Why do I believe I'm not enough? When did that belief take root? Who taught me that love has to be earned with pain? Because here's the truth, no one on this earth can love you enough to make you believe you're worthy. That power, uncomfortable as it may be, belongs only to you. The shift happens when you stop using love like a crutch, a shield, a distraction, and begin standing on your own. It's not easy. It requires courage, stillness, and the willingness to be brutally honest with yourself. But it's the only way to real freedom. Yes, it may sound harsh, but it's a truth most people never dare to confront. Emotional hunger is not the same as love. When you're starving for connection, you'll accept anything, even if it leaves you feeling emptier than before. You confuse scraps for a feast, validation for value, but that kind of love isn't love at all. It's self-abandonment in disguise. Love born from need is how we betray ourselves, again and again. It's how we surrender our right to be loved unconditionally, placing it in someone else's hands and calling it destiny. And there is something even harder to realize, something we often refuse to admit. We don't just love in the wrong ways, we often choose the wrong people. Because much of what we think is love is merely a projection, a reflection of the unresolved shadows we carry within. Number 2, the mechanism of projection in relationships. Jung once said, "The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others." To him, love isn't merely a feeling, it's a mirror, one that shows you exactly who you are inside, not who you pretend to be, not who you want to be, but who you truly are at your deepest level. You may think you're drawn to someone because of who they are, but more often than not, it's because they awaken a hidden part of you, a part you haven't yet faced or understood. That's the beauty and the danger of projection. It feels faded, magical even, but in truth, it's a reflection of your own inner world, mirrored back through the presence of another. We often believe that our most meaningful connections are random. A stranger in class, a coworker, a friend's friend, someone you bumped into on the street or matched with on an app. But no, those life-altering meetings are anything but chance. In Jung's view, nothing is random, especially not the people you meet. The person who shows up in your life is the one your soul has quietly called for. Carl Jung asserted that each of us is not only driven by the conscious mind, the part you know and control, but also guided by a deeper layer, the collective unconscious, formed by ancient instincts and timeless archetypes. These aren't just abstract ideas, they live within us as inherited psychic structures. They surface as rituals, recurring symbols, and primal images, passed down from the earliest human civilizations, but often suppressed or ignored by our conscious awareness. We cannot perceive these archetypes directly, at least not through logic or intellect, but we feel them deeply. They stir something ancient in us, emotions that rise without explanation. In the realm of love, two of the most influential archetypes are the anima and the animus. The anima represents the unconscious feminine qualities within a man's psyche: tenderness, intuition, empathy, emotion. On the other hand, the animus reflects the unconscious masculine traits within a woman's psyche: rationality, strength, action, and belief in ideals. Regardless of gender, every person carries within them an idealized inner image of the other, shaped by these powerful unconscious forces. So, when you meet someone who aligns closely with this internal archetype, the connection feels more than physical or emotional. It feels fated, as though the universe conspired to bring them into your life. You're not just drawn to them, you're magnetized. You feel as though this person holds a missing piece of your soul. The feeling is uncanny, almost surreal. It's not just attraction, it's a sensation of deep recognition. Like two life stories from distant corners of the world, we're always meant to cross. Jung once said that some connections are formed before life gives them a name. That might sound poetic, but to Jung it's not metaphor. It's how the unconscious operates. Beneath the visible flow of life, something deeper is always at work. Nothing happens by chance. And in this context, chance itself is no accident. It's a language. What we call fate may be the unconscious communicating through circumstances, drawing people into our lives with a meaning far beyond what we can immediately grasp. These people don't come to please or entertain us. They come as mirrors, reflecting parts of ourselves we've long overlooked. The key insight is this: you don't have to consciously know what kind of energy you're putting into the world. Your unconscious is doing that for you, quietly but powerfully. The hidden longing for love, the shame you buried as a child, the unspoken belief that you're unworthy. These things radiate from you like a silent signal. And the people you attract aren't accidents, they are answers. They come to reflect what's been dormant inside you. Imagine a door suddenly opening in the middle of your routine life. Through it walks someone who, without saying much, stirs something deep within you. Maybe they're emotionally distant. Maybe they ignore you or make you feel invisible. And yet, you find yourself aching for their affection. Why? Because that ache was always there, that hunger for validation, that belief that love must be earned through pain. It wasn't created by them. It lived inside you long before they arrived, and their presence simply awakened it. If any part of this feels familiar, if a memory surfaces, if a truth is stirring within you, pause for a moment. Leave a sign in the comments. A word, a symbol, a quiet yes. Not just for yourself, but for others who are walking the same path. That's how the shadow begins to dissolve, not through theory, but through awareness, through honesty, through shared human experience. Because healing doesn't come from reading more books or hearing more theories. It comes through real people, real emotions, and real pain. And that's exactly why these difficult relationships, as painful as they are necessary. The truth is, we don't just randomly meet people. We meet the ones who carry the lesson our soul is ready for. The one who hurts you, they're showing you your pain. The one who makes you tremble with uncertainty, they're reflecting a false belief you've carried. The one who makes you feel like yourself, they are reminding you that you've always deserved to be seen, just as you are. And this is where the trap lies. We don't fall in love with the actual person. We fall for the image our unconscious has projected onto them. We fall for who we believe they are, not who they truly are. And when the illusion fades, as it always does, we feel betrayed, disappointed, even angry. But instead of turning inward to understand the projection, we look for someone else to project onto, and thus the cycle quietly continues. But projection is just the surface layer. What binds us in repeated emotional entanglements runs deeper. It's not just who we choose, it's the energy we emit that silently draws them in. Number 3, the energy of lack. You may never say it out loud. You might hide it beneath smiles, confidence, or even silence. But energy never lies. People can sense when you carry a void inside you. They pick up, even unconsciously, on your longing for validation, your need to be loved. It's not in your words, it's in your eyes that linger a little too long, in the way you wait anxiously for a reply, hoping it will come, in the way you hesitate before speaking, fearing rejection, in the way you try a little too hard to be accepted. All of it whispers one silent truth: I don't know how to love myself. Carl Jung once said, "You don't control what you're not aware of. It controls you." That is the nature of unconscious energy. And the energy of lack, this deep-rooted craving for love and worth, is what slowly, subtly makes genuine connection impossible. Because love, real love, can't thrive in desperation. Even if you do everything right, even if you give all you have, it won't matter. That invisible hunger repels what you seek. It creates tension, fear, and emotional imbalance. So be honest now. How many times have you felt overwhelmed when someone didn't respond to your message after a few hours? How many times have you checked their stories, status updates, or photos just to guess what they're thinking, where they are, who they're with? How many times have you found yourself analyzing every little detail, zooming in on a blurry background, reading between the lines of a caption, or perhaps to calm the storm brewing inside you? And how many times have you smiled and said, "I'm fine," when deep down you were anything but? You're like a tidal wave, waiting silently, hoping that one small gesture from them will anchor you, will make everything feel safe again. That, right there, is the energy of need. And it's not only draining, it's what slowly drives others away. In the realm of psychology, this overwhelming emotional pool is known as attachment anxiety, a branch of anxious attachment. But through the lens of Carl Jung, this dynamic goes even deeper. It's a reflection of the unintegrated shadow self. When you rely on love to confirm your worth, what you're truly doing is handing over your soul to someone else, often without even realizing it. You're not truly offering love, you're subconsciously begging for validation, hoping to be made whole by another. And when people pull away, it's rarely because you're not attractive enough, not interesting enough, or not enough in some way. It's because they feel the unspoken burden of your expectations, the quiet pressure to complete you, to constantly reassure you, to make you feel secure and validated. And truthfully, no one can carry that emotional responsibility forever. Eventually, they begin to pull back. And again, you're left with that hollow feeling, believing, "I'm not enough," all over again. And so, the painful cycle begins anew. Jung once said, "Where there is desire, there is bondage." But the desire he spoke of isn't lust or passion. It's the desperate need for someone else to fill a void that you've left unhealed within yourself. There's a vast difference between the energy of need and the desire to connect from a place of wholeness. Desire from wholeness says, "I want you in my life, but I'm still me without you." That kind of love is spacious and free. But need arises from lack and emptiness. It whispers, "If you're not here, I don't know who I am." This is the vital distinction between healthy love and obsessive attachment. The tricky part is, this energy is hard to detect within yourself. It doesn't live on the surface. It lies hidden in the deep waters of the unconscious, like a silent current, steering your choices without you even noticing. You might believe you're deeply in love, but underneath, there may be fear. Fear of being alone, of being unwanted, of not being enough. And that fear influences your actions in subtle yet powerful ways. You begin asking too many questions, reacting emotionally to small things, and needing constant reassurance. These behaviors are all signs of the energy of need, and without meaning to, that energy pushes people away, especially the ones you want to keep close. Carl Jung understood this better than most. He described the unconscious mind as an iceberg. The part you see is just the tip. Beneath that lies a massive realm, the subconscious, housing all your past experiences, your unresolved traumas, your self-doubt, and most importantly, the projections you place on others. Fear operates in this hidden space. It shows up disguised as hesitation when you wonder if you're good enough to love or be loved. It reveals itself in procrastination, when you hold off on chasing what you truly desire because you're scared to fail. It takes shape in relationships where you give too much, not from generosity, but from the fear that no one will ever choose you unless you overextend. And if you observe closely, you'll see that people who effortlessly attract others don't do it by chasing or by trying hard. They're simply rooted in themselves. They live from a place of calm self-assurance. Their energy isn't buzzing with anxiety, and that quiet confidence, that peace, is what makes them magnetic. They don't play games. They don't overthink or overreach. They just are. And ironically, that relaxed presence is exactly what draws others in. The truth is, love doesn't flee from your flaws, but it does retreat when it senses desperation. And the energy of begging doesn't always need words. It shows up in the way you wait endlessly for their reply, the way you forgive too quickly just to avoid losing them, the way you silence your own needs out of fear they'll walk away. So if you're noticing that someone is growing distant in your relationship, take a moment. Before placing the blame on them, turn inward and examine the energy you're carrying. Are you loving as a free person or as someone needing salvation? Are you interacting from peace or panic? Are you opening your heart or clinging? The painful truth is that people can sense it, even if they can't explain it, not with logic, but with instinct. And human instinct is incredibly sensitive to invisible pressure. Even someone who loves you deeply will eventually need space if they feel emotionally cornered. Everyone needs room to be themselves. To preserve love, you don't have to try harder, you have to need less. Because when you love, not from a place of fear, but from a place of fullness, your entire energy changes. You radiate confidence. You become whole. You stop seeking someone to complete you and start becoming someone who adds to the relationship, rather than depending on it to survive. You no longer need to be saved. You no longer need to be reassured. You are simply present. But achieving that level of presence isn't just about changing how you act. It demands a deeper process, the journey back to your true self. This is what Jung called individuation. Number 4, individuation, the key to true love. Carl Jung called individuation the process of becoming wholly oneself. It is not just a psychological concept. It is the most profound and necessary journey a person can embark on in this life. The journey to become your true self, not a reflection of society's expectations, not a patchwork of other people's beliefs or ideals, and not a masked version of who you think you should be. To individuate means to step out of the shadows of imitation and into the light of authenticity. You are no longer manipulated by external expectations, past emotional wounds, or the idealized images imposed by others. And here's the truth. It is this inner journey, not romantic effort, not physical beauty, not cleverness or status, that becomes the real key to attracting true love. A kind of love that arises not from emptiness, but from genuine inner freedom. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep falling for people who can't love me in the way I need? Then against all logic, you try to change them, mold them, hoping they'll finally meet that hidden need within you? Jung explained this phenomenon not through surface-level analysis, but through the language of the divided soul, the fractured self, seeking completion through another. When you haven't individuated, when you have not yet embraced or even recognized the authentic core of who you are, you will inevitably seek in others what you have not yet faced or accepted within. It becomes a cycle of projection. Individuation, therefore, is not about becoming independent in the superficial modern sense of the word. It does not mean isolating yourself, doing everything alone, or pretending to need no one. True individuation is the process of gently turning inward, of beginning to see what truly lives within you. It's the courage to ask, what am I still carrying? Which wounds are silently shaping my behavior? What parts of me have I buried or rejected to be accepted by others? And then, it is about integrating all of that, every fragmented, hidden, or painful part, so that you can become a unified, conscious, and free human being, capable of making meaningful choices. Imagine, for instance, a woman who constantly fears abandonment, not because she's weak, but because as a child she was emotionally neglected, not through cruelty, but through emotional absence. Her parents were present physically, but unavailable emotionally. She never felt truly seen, never received unconditional love. And so, instead of learning how to love herself, she developed the belief that she was inadequate, unworthy, too much, or not enough. She came to believe that in order to be loved, she had to be agreeable, to not cause trouble, to stay silent. As an adult, she reenacts that pattern in every relationship, always giving more than she receives, always sacrificing her needs, swallowing her feelings to keep others close. She believes that if she's good enough, if she stays quiet enough, No one will leave her. But time and time again, they do. Not because she is unlovable, but because the love she expresses is drenched in fear. Fear that she will be left behind. Fear that she is not enough on her own. She gives everything, but her energy is not that of a whole person offering love. It is the energy of someone hoping to be saved. Her self-image shaped in childhood is not built on truth but on survival. She is living through a temporary ego, a version of herself she created to adapt to an emotionally barren environment. And that ego, when it attempts to love, can only form a kind of counterfeit love. Not a connection, but a transaction. Not freedom, but dependency. Jung once said, "No one can see outward if they haven't looked inward." You cannot genuinely see or love another person if you haven't faced yourself. If you don't know what you truly need, if you haven't confronted the shadows you've hidden from for years. Individuation is that brave journey inward. It's the path to accepting your entire being, both the light and the darkness, both your vulnerabilities and your strengths, your pain and your potential. And when you've done that inner work, something shifts. You no longer love because you're lacking something. You love because you are already whole and now wish to share that wholeness with someone else. You love from fullness, not from fear. What's ironic is that many people believe they've grown up, that they've matured, become independent adults. But in reality, many are still operating from childhood wounds inside adult bodies. They enter relationships still hoping that someone will love them so deeply, so unconditionally, that it will finally heal the inner emptiness they've carried for decades. But here's the problem. When you love from lack, you unknowingly place all your old wounds onto your partner. You carry invisible bags full of expectations, hoping the other person will unpack them and fix what's inside. But no one can carry that burden forever. Sooner or later, even the most loving partner will feel overwhelmed, drained, or even trapped. Individuation is not a comfortable path. It's painful because it forces you to face the very things you've avoided your entire life. The loneliness, the rejection, the stories you've told yourself just to survive. But it is necessary because at some point you must stop blaming others for your pain. You must stop seeing yourself as the eternal victim in love and start taking responsibility for your choices, your energy, your patterns. It means peeling away every protective mask, every defense, every narrative you've crafted to hide behind. It means meeting your true self, unfiltered, unpolished, and unconditional. And when you've made peace with that raw, honest version of yourself, something beautiful happens. You no longer seek to merge with another person, to feel whole. Once you've made peace with yourself and learned to love your imperfections, you'll realize true love is not about merging or finding the other half. True love happens when two individuated people, two souls at peace with themselves, choose to walk together, not to fill a void, but to amplify each other's light. Number 5, the journey of transformation, from chaser to attractor. This is not just a shift in behavior. It is a profound inner shift in how you perceive yourself and your worth. No one can love you in the way you truly deserve if you haven't first learned to love yourself. No one can make you feel whole if, deep inside, you carry the belief that you are unworthy. No relationship, no matter how romantic or beautiful it may appear on the surface, can ever fill a void you've been too afraid to face on your own. And that's why this journey of transformation doesn't begin with other people. It begins within you, right at the center of your being. Right where the discomfort lies. Carl Jung never offered comforting illusions. His teachings were not wrapped in soft words or false promises. He didn't portray psychology as a feel-good escape. Instead, Jung was the one who pointed directly at your pain and said, "Stay here. Don't run. Don't avoid. Face it. Face the darkness directly and find the light, not by fleeing from the shadows, but by walking through them." In the journey to heal from emotional dependency, you will be required to do what most avoid their whole lives. You must be willing to stay alone, awake, present, without the usual distractions, without running into someone else's arms for comfort. And slowly, day by day, you begin the quiet, steady return to yourself. Below is a simple yet powerful psychological exercise designed to support the process of rebuilding self-love from the inside out. If you're brave enough to try it, leave a comment below. Say, "I'm ready to change," so we can walk this journey together. The first step in this transformation begins with reflection. Specifically, reflecting on your current or past relationships. Ask yourself this: what is my current relationship really like? Am I always the one initiating? Always the one sending the first text? Apologizing first after arguments? Bending over backwards to keep the peace? Do I often compromise my comfort to make others feel secure? Look deeper. In what ways might I be neglecting myself in this connection? Perhaps you struggle to set clear boundaries because you're terrified they'll walk away. Or maybe you've grown so used to being unheard that you stopped sharing your real feelings long ago, fearing they'd be dismissed or ignored. These are not small signs. They are signals that you may be abandoning yourself within this love. And beginning today, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Pause every behavior that stems from the deep, unspoken fear of not being loved or not being enough. That means don't send the message just to check in. Even if you miss them, even if your mind tells you they might be upset, even if you're anxious and looking for reassurance, pause. Don't chase. Why? Because the truth is, if someone genuinely feels a connection with you, they will show up on their own. They will come not because you reminded them, but because they want to. You don't need their reply to know your worth. You don't need your name glowing on a screen to feel deserving of love. Your value doesn't lie in someone else's response. It lies in your ability to commit to yourself, especially when it feels uncomfortable. The second step is to practice intentional solitude. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It doesn't mean numbing your feelings by scrolling endlessly or waiting for someone to rescue you from silence. This kind of solitude is active. It is purposeful. It's about choosing to turn down the external volume so you can finally hear your inner voice. Try this. Journal your emotions daily. Each morning or night, take a few moments to write out whatever you feel. Confusion, sadness, anger, hope. You don't need to write anything beautiful or articulate. Just be honest. Let the page become your mirror. Writing creates space in the unconscious. It untangles emotional chaos and brings clarity to the places where darkness once lived. Then go deeper. Face loneliness without escape. Instead of reaching for a distraction, be it Netflix, food, or a meaningless conversation, sit in stillness. Literally sit. Let the silence settle around you. Feel the emptiness. Not to fear it, but to understand it. Notice how it presses into your chest or lingers in your stomach. Ask that feeling, where did you come from? What are you trying to tell me? In that sacred stillness, you'll begin to hear sounds you've long tried to drown out, memories you forgot, beliefs you inherited but never examined, emotional wounds still waiting to be seen. These aren't enemies. They are guides. They are the inner map you've been searching for all along, pointing you back to your true self. The third step is to nurture your inner world. Think for a moment. How much time have you spent trying to be loved by others? How much of your energy has gone into becoming someone's ideal, molding yourself to their preferences? It's time to take that energy back. Redirect it not into surface-level self-care, but into building a solid foundation within. Care for your physical body, not out of vanity, but because your body is the container of all your emotional experiences. It holds your past, your pain, your power. A healthy diet, quality sleep, and daily movement do more than improve your health. They help regulate your nervous system, reducing the subconscious stress that fuels dependency. When you feel balanced in your body, you make better emotional decisions, and that clarity extends outward into every area of your life. Next, embrace creativity. You don't need to be an artist, just express. Write something, paint, cook, design, make music, dance. These acts reconnect you with your inner vitality. Creativity heals because it reminds you that you are a creator, not just of art, but of your own life. It brings forth a value that exists only within you. something no one else can replicate. And most importantly, reconnect with yourself daily. Schedule time to do what makes you feel alive. A slow walk under a golden sky, a chapter of a book that awakens your soul, brewing a warm cup of tea and sipping it in complete stillness. These aren't insignificant acts. They're declarations. Each one says, I am enough. I choose to be with myself. I no longer need to run. When you do these things, you're not just withdrawing energy from others. You're transforming yourself from within. You're sending a message to your subconscious mind. I am ready to stop loving from lack. I am ready to love from fullness. And in that moment, when your energy no longer begs, no longer chases, no longer clings, you begin to radiate something extraordinary. Groundedness, calm, an inner magnetism not tied to how you look or what you say, but rooted in who you truly are. Number 6, the kind of love that comes when you love yourself. When you no longer live in a state of lack, something within you shifts at a fundamental level. You begin to radiate a completely different kind of energy. Not the kind that begs for attention or approval, not the kind that clings or fears abandonment, but a calm, powerful frequency, one that invites rather than pursues, one that attracts rather than pleads. And it's an energy that doesn't crave, doesn't grasp. It simply rests in ease. And this energy, as Carl Jung described, is the signature of a soul that has moved beyond the illusions of projection and into the reality of its authentic self. You're no longer chasing someone to fill the emptiness, because now inside you there is a lifeful, vibrant, and meaningful already taking root. From that rooted place, something beautiful begins to happen. You start naturally drawing toward you the very things you used to chase, out of desperation, out of fear, out of longing. In the past, you may have reached and reached, but never truly received, because when your energy says, I need, everything around you unconsciously steps back. But when you embody wholeness, you stop pushing things away without even realizing it, and instead, you become a magnet for what is healthy, honest, and aligned. Carl Jung once said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Wholeness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from embracing all parts of yourself, light and dark, strength and fragility, and allowing them to coexist without shame. And it is from that state of true inner harmony that healthy relationships begin to form effortlessly and authentically. People feel it. They sense your presence, not as a burden, but as a space of clarity and safety. They stay not because they feel obligated, but because they feel drawn to something real. With you, there's no pressure to perform, to rescue, or to prove anything. You are enough, and they are enough. And in that space, genuine connection can finally breathe. You begin to attract opportunities that reflect your truest self, not because you're chasing them, but because you're no longer acting out of fear. You're no longer doing things simply to earn validation. You're no longer making decisions based on the fear of being left behind. That shift gives you an entirely new kind of power, clarity, emotional depth, creative flow. You become bolder, softer, and more intentional all at once. And the kind of affection that starts to enter your life, it is real, it is unconditional, it is not exploitative or transactional. You begin to connect with people who are straightforward, steady, and emotionally present, not because you convince them to stay, but because they are already whole too, and now they want to share that wholeness with you. You attract those who love you, not to fix you or complete you, but simply because they are already fulfilled and want to give from their overflow. This is the love between two liberated souls, not two people desperately clinging to each other to hide their wounds, but two individuals who have done their work, who have lived slowly, deeply, and authentically, and now choose each other freely. Not to fill a void, but because both have loved themselves wholly. And when that happens, love ceases to be a prize for being good enough. Instead, it becomes the most natural response, Two resonant frequencies meeting, not by force, but by alignment. They don't cling, they don't control, they don't monitor each other like lifelines. They choose, every day, to stay, not out of fear, but out of conscious connection. It's not about survival anymore, it's about expansion. And when love is born in that kind of space, it doesn't drain, it nourishes. And here's the remarkable part. Even if someone does walk away from you in this state, you don't crumble, because your sense of self, your value, your worth, it's no longer dependent on who stays or who goes. It's no longer necessary. It's conscious companionship. You'll still feel pain because you're human, but you won't lose yourself. You won't unravel. You'll remain whole, and from that inner steadiness, other worthy things begin to arrive, not according to your timeline, not based on how hard you try, but as a quiet response to the energy you now live in. You stop craving. You start attracting. You stop waiting to be loved. You start living in self-love. Thank you for walking this journey with me, because in the end, the answer to the love you've longed for isn't in someone else. It's in the energy you carry every single day. And the miracle is, it's always been within your power to change it. At any moment, you can pause. You can turn inward. You can begin choosing yourself. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with peace. Just as Jung reminded us so wisely, if you have nothing at all to create, then perhaps you create yourself. True love does not come from the exhausting effort of becoming someone others will love. It comes when you stop trying to be someone else and start living as yourself. No more controlling, no more clinging, no more begging. Just a powerful, grounded presence, a being fully at home in their own skin. And in truth, no one really falls in love with another person. They fall into themselves, into the parts they've never dared to see before. And when that happens, true love, if it's meant to exist, becomes not a fantasy, but a real, living response to a soul that has finally returned home to its essence. If what I've shared resonates with you and urges you to change for the better, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications today. Who knows, the upcoming videos might arrive just when you need them most.